Hey guys, Abner Miranda here. Driving with a firearm is one of those subject matters that is a really hot button item in the firearms training industry. I honestly don't know why. It's right up there with the whole 9 versus 40 versus 45 thing. As a person who's had a lot of vehicle training, I can tell you that the carrying of a firearm in a car from the standpoint of fighting is like tactical karaoke. What I mean by that is when you go to vehicle classes, you spend a lot of time sitting in a car with your seatbelt on, and they say fight, and you throw the seatbelt off, kick the door open. You may or may not draw your firearm and crack off a bunch of shots through the windshield, or pop some shots off over here, and then you bail out of the vehicle. And by the way, this is where temple index comes from. It's from the environment of being in cars. You basically shoot, check on your partner if you've got one with you, and instead of potentially muzzling yourself while getting out of the vehicle, you place the weapon to the temple and you go to get out of the vehicle. And this is the most efficient way to get out of the vehicle without muzzling yourself or muzzling anybody else, and minimizing the amount of muzzling to people that are out here, and then you bail out and you move. Well, when you are talking about, I hate using the term real world, but honestly it applies here. When you are talking about the real world of living with a firearm in a car, having been a police officer, also being an armed citizen, what I can tell you is, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll address this from the standpoint of a private citizen. If I'm in a position where someone's trying to carjack me, honestly, I'm just going to drive away. People say, well, what if they incapacitate the vehicle? Okay, what does that look like to you? Pop, 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 pop. I mean, look, people that carjack don't typically start hosing the car. If there are any rounds being loosed in a carjacking, it's through the glass at you, because they want the vehicle. So the chances of them doing that effectively, if I get on the gas and go, is very slim. And guys, windshields, man, they are hard to get through with bullets. Side windows, believe it or not, side windows, even though these are made of glass that will spall into thousands of little pieces, it'll still interrupt rounds. If someone's approaching me, my better bet is get on the throttle and go, which is why leaving a reactionary gap is the best choice of action, meaning at every single stop that I make, I should always be able, from a seated position, to look at the vehicle in front of me and see their tires making contact with the asphalt. Also means that I'm constantly addressing my mirrors, all three, watching for traffic behind me to make sure that no one's going to plow into me. So when it comes to the standpoint of carrying a firearm in the car, the first question has to be, from an operational standpoint, what do I intend on doing with that firearm? Okay, if I intend on defending myself with that firearm, then yeah, it mandates that the firearm is on me. If my weapon is actually my vehicle, then that kind of changes things a little bit. But for the confines of this video, we're going to discuss the weapon being on you. I just wanted to make sure that I gave you guys a true realistic look at carrying a firearm in a car. If I'm doing just a short jump from the house to wherever, the gun's on me. If I'm doing a longer period of driving, then the gun is actually going to come off in the holster. It's going to go in the center console along with the spare mags, and it's going to go there. Why? Because I'm on the highway doing 70 miles an hour. Good luck getting carjacked. Guys, I want to make sure that I'm giving you a true look at reality. Sitting for protracted periods of time with a firearm digging into your leg is a surefire way to end up doing a lot of damage to the joints. You can mitigate some of that, most especially when you're doing the short trips. You can mitigate some of that by taking the gun and turning it at an angle like this. You wouldn't think that that slight angle turn would make a big difference, but it really does. If you're talking straight up and down, it's digging in. This area here is called the suprapubic area. Okay, the suprapubic is very sensitive. It's a very delicate area. you could end up causing damage to stuff down here that you don't want, nerve damage that you don't want to cause. So turning your gun at an angle mitigates that. The last point is, what are you carrying your gun in? For me, I'm carrying my gun in a drop out of sight Torsion holster from Bravo Concealment. I add a piece of memory foam to the bottom because it makes a dramatic difference in comfort in how the holster and weapon combinations sit against the suprapubic area. This keeps it from digging in to this area here, and then this portion creates just enough gap between the bottom of the holster and the inside of my thigh to keep from wearing me out. Driving with a firearm is, ironically, one of the things that we most often have to do. Remember, living with a firearm does not mean shooting that firearm, it means carrying that firearm. And you're going to do vastly more carrying and living with your firearm than you're ever going to do with shooting the firearm, because let's face it, you know, I'm out here on a range, I'm out here on a private range. I actually have the ability to bail out of a vehicle and run and do drills if I want to with my own vehicle. I have the ability to shoot from inside of my own vehicle if I choose to, which, by the way, I would not recommend that you do. As a person who has a lot of experience discharging firearms from inside vehicles, I can tell you, you're going to wreck your own vehicle. All these fancy little buttons that modern cars have are very susceptible to vibrations, and the impact of gunfire, even handgun fire inside of a vehicle, is really very damaging to all the technology that's in a vehicle. Not to mention today's windshields, unfortunately, the glass packages in vehicles, side windows and windshields, are now being designed thinner and thinner and thinner to take the weight off of the vehicle so that they can increase the gas mileage. But one of the heaviest components to a car are all these glass panels, because they take up so much room, so much square footage of the car. So they're thinning them more and more and more, which is why you're seeing around you more modern cars, you know, 20, I'm going to say like 2012s and up. Man, windshields are cracking left and right because they're getting thinned out. When you pull the trigger, the reason I'm laughing is when you pull the trigger in a vehicle, whatever light, tiny little cracks you might have in your windshield, that sonic blast is actually going to find them, and it's going to make them bigger. So consider that. My family knows that whenever we get somewhere, you know, getting out at a restaurant, my wife knows, don't just jump out of the vehicle. She sits for a minute and she waits as I grab my gun, put it on, chamber check, make sure everything's ready to go, mags are in place, and then we get out. When we get back in again, we start rolling, and once we hit the highway, gun comes off, goes in the center console. It's those little steps that I've had to do to simplify my life, to make things comfortable from a medical standpoint. Because guys, I'm accustomed to carrying guns, and I'm accustomed to the discomfort that comes with carrying guns. What I'm now finding at 47 is that a lot of the damage and the pinching and the poking that firearms have done to my body over the years is now starting to manifest itself in pain in my joints. These are real things that people have to consider. Some of you just haven't really gotten there yet because you're not really living with your firearm the way you really should be, and you should be living with your firearm. If you've gone through the hassle of buying a gun, training with a gun, getting your concealed carry permit, and being a legally armed citizen, then you need to be a legally armed citizen. You have to have it on you. And it requires a little bit of forethought to live with a gun in a car. So, as always, I thank you guys for watching. God bless you all. Get those guns out in practice. Have a good one.